Bird Gang, what is up? And welcome back to the Philly Special Podcast. Back for another season, inaugural episode here, and excited. We started off a little bit later than we usually do. Usually I like to do postseason recap, draft stuff, post-draft stuff, free agency. It's been busy in my life, okay? Give me a break, but we're here now. Week 1 is in the books, and the Eagles pull off a win. Now, if you guys have been following me on social media, I said this is going to be a tough game. And maybe I had the Hard Knocks vibe going on where I just had a little bit of faith in the Lions. I think the Lions are an underrated team this year. I really do, and we'll get into that and more. But for now, I just want to say I'm happy to be back. We got the green screen going on now. We're back for another season. It's great, man. I mean, I love doing this stuff. And yeah, I'm just excited to get into Eagles football this year because it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be at the end of last year. You know, the Eagles barely getting themselves into the playoffs, get absolutely dominated by Tampa Bay in the first round. And then for me, where I'm like, let's see what we have in a rebuild. We got a lot of picks coming up in this draft, in next draft, and out of nowhere, we start signing these crazy free agents, especially on the defensive side of the ball, which is such a huge help. When you look at Kazir White, when you look at Reddick, and then obviously drafting Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean, they added James Bradbury. So much talent now on that defensive side of the ball that I was not expecting going into this season. And it made me get excited because that was the biggest, wide receiver, obviously, but the biggest hole on the defensive side of the ball was the linebackers. And I think the biggest hole as a whole, that's fun to say, hole as a whole for the Eagles was the linebacking position. And they have addressed that hardcore, and it paid off right away in the first game. Kazir White was an immediate disruptor, both in the pass game and the run game. Let me take a look at his stats real quick while I talk about it. But yes, and he wasn't just him too. I mean, they got CJ Gardner-Johnson, which is also a big help. Let's see here. Kazir White had 4 tackles and a tackle for loss, as well as that pass deflection that led to Bradbury's pick 6. So it was a really good first game for Kazir White. And he wasn't the only one. But again, we'll get into that. I want to kind of just get the recap done first because draft day was absolutely crazy, right? We're sitting there with our pick. We know Jameson Williams is right there, and that's what I thought we were going to do. We were moving up to get Jameson Williams, get that complemental piece for Devontae Smith because we know we needed another weapon. Of course, that's not what happened. We got A.J. Brown, which was just absolutely insane. And you talk about 2 hits in a row for Howie Roseman, where it's been such lull in the drafts. We've been talking too much about how we missed DK Metcalf, how we missed Justin Jefferson. Well, guess what? We hit on Devontae Smith, and I think they hit on this A.J. Brown trade if Week 1 has anything to say about it. Yeah, they didn't get Treylon Burks, whatever. And also they got Jordan Davis with that pick. I'm misremembering a little bit. The trade happened for their second first-round pick, which would have been Treylon Burks. That's what the Titans took. And instead the Eagles got A.J. Brown, which was just fantastic. But yeah, Jordan Davis. And you guys obviously know all about Jordan Davis now, so I won't get too far into it. But it's crazy, this guy's stats. I mean, he is a unicorn, truly. I mean, if I remember correctly, he's faster than Patrick Mahomes. He's taller than Rob Gronkowski. He's bigger than Jason Peters. And he's quicker than Jarvis Landry. All of those things are facts. They are all true. It's unbelievable how good Jordan Davis is physically. And yeah, his pass rush is an issue, and it showed definitely in this game because the pass rush as a whole was an issue. But that run stop, man, I think I read something like they were averaging 10 yards a carry when he was off the field, and they averaged like 2 when he was on. It's unbelievable the impact that Jordan Davis can have on a game. And, his stats don't tell the stories. I'm looking over here now at it. He only had 1 solo tackle, 2 total tackles, but it's the disruption, and he disrupted a lot. This kid is going to be really, really good. Just keep your eye on it. I believe that wholeheartedly. But yeah, they got A.J. Brown, Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, who really didn't have an impact at all in this game. I don't remember even seeing him out there that much. I'm sure he was, but that's a guy that's definitely going to get integrated into the defense as we go. Huge additions, and it got me so excited going into this season, and especially after I look at the schedule, which is preferable, really, compared to other teams. Philadelphia has a real chance, and I think starting 1-0 and Dallas being 0-1, and obviously the unfortunate loss, and I do mean unfortunate loss of Dak Prescott, it does set the Eagles up pretty well moving forward, that it seems like Washington and New York might be the two biggest threats, at least in the short term. Obviously, Dak looking better. Looks like instead of 8 weeks, it might be 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, somewhere in there. So they will be getting him back, which honestly I like. I know there's some fans out there that, the weaker the teams in the division, the better. I would rather not have any asterisks for why we win. I want Dak Prescott in both games. I want Dak Prescott the whole year, so that way when we win the game win the division by 2 or 3 games, there's no question marks. We know that the better team won. We don't have to answer any questions about, well, Dak Prescott was hurt. So I like when the other team's quarterback is out there on the field. But anyway, I think offseason stuff we're in. Let's get into this game because it was an exciting one, definitely for week 1. We get, 68, I'm not good at math, 72 total points combined. It was 73. I told you I can't math. 73 total points combined. That's an exciting first game. And Philadelphia really put the throttle on early. They were up 24-14 going into halftime. And you would have liked to have seen that going into the second half. But of course, they kind of let the Lions back in. But luckily for us, the offense just kept on the throttle all throughout the second half. And besides the fourth quarter. But other than that, they got the job done. And at the end of the day, 1-0 is 1-0. You know what I mean? We're not going to remember how close this game was. All we're going to know is that we have one win over the Detroit Lions, and that's how you want to start the season. But overall, man, this was a fun game. The Eagles struggled in the beginning. It looked like Jalen Hurts didn't have a lot of time to get rid of the ball or develop any sort of plays in the first drive especially, and relied on his running as he does. I mean, he carried the ball 17 times, and we're going to see that a lot this year. And I know that's a big kind of sour note for a lot of Eagles fans is how much Jalen Hurts runs the ball as opposed to passing. I get it, all right? But I think this game does have a lot of positives for Jalen Hurts, as we'll get into. But 4 different rushing touchdowns for the Eagles in this game, and 4 different players on those rushing touchdowns. All the running backs getting involved. Sanders got himself his first touchdown in 2 seasons. You'll love to see that. Kenneth Gainwell got a touchdown. Boston Scott and Jalen Hurts all rushing for touchdowns. I think the Eagles are still going to be one of the top rushing teams in the NFL, if not the top rushing team in the NFL this year. And you add in this pass game, which is just dangerous. Let's look at A.J. Brown for a minute, man. 10 catches, 155 yards, 15 yards per reception. That's crazy. That is a crazy debut. A.J. Brown setting a record right away. He's in the Eagles history books already. Most yards, receiving yards for any player, I think just yards, outside of quarterbacks. Any player in their first game in Philadelphia Eagles history. 155 for A.J. Brown. Game 1. It also ties his career high best in receiving yards in Game 1. You want to talk about a splash? Just getting involved and making a presence right away? That was A.J. Brown in this game. And I gotta believe that was the plan, right? We know this connection between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is got a high expectation. He's the new kid on the block. It's his first game. It's on the road. Let's get him involved in the offense quick, and let's get him involved often. And I think the Eagles did an absolutely phenomenal job at that, obviously, because Jalen Hurts had 243 yards passing, and 155 of them went to A.J. Brown. The other 60 to Dallas Goedert, 12 to Kenneth Gainwell, and after that, Sanders and Pascal were the only 2 with yards in this game. And obviously, that leaves a notable person off of that list, and that is Devontae Smith, who had 0 catches for 0 yards. Let's talk about that for just a second as well, because people are worried, right? I mean, I've seen the memes, I've seen stuff where it's like, oh, Jalen Hurts has his new toy. A.J. Brown is the new weapon, the new it kid for the Philadelphia Eagles. And that may be true in Game 1, and that may be true going forward, but let's not act like Devontae Smith didn't put up a rookie record in receiving yards for the Eagles last year, almost touched 1,000 yards receiving, a few touchdowns sprinkled in there as well. The kid is ready to play. He's still a top-tier wide receiver. Yes, it's disappointing. It's absolutely disappointing. He has 0 catches and 0 yards in this game. But if I had to guess, when we go play Minnesota this week, Minnesota is going to be looking at A.J. Brown. This guy had 155 yards last game. We have to cover him up. We have to do what we can to make sure A.J. Brown doesn't get the football. Well, guess what? That's going to open the door for Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith is going to get his. Please do not worry. It is week 1, okay? There's no neglection going on here from Jalen Hurts. I truly believe that it was designed, this game, for A.J. Brown to get involved early and often throughout the game. And if it works, it works. Why would you stray away from it? Giving A.J. Brown the ball is what led the Eagles to 38 points. It's what got them in the red zone a lot of times. It's what got them in scoring position. It worked. So why would you deviate away from what's working, winning the game? I know it hurt a lot of your fantasy teams. I know it hurt a lot of your opinions on Devontae Smith, but I'm telling you, this is just a 1 week thing where Devontae Smith is going to have 0 catches, 0 yards. Next week, it could be a completely different story. I personally see it that this script is going to get flipped a few times. I think there's going to be games where A.J. Brown might only have, 4 catches, 50 yards, and Devontae Smith is going to have 110 and 2 touchdowns. Like, they're both elite level wide receivers, and obviously Devontae Smith has a lot more to prove. He hasn't had that Pro Bowl year, that 1,000-yard year yet. It's coming. It's coming. Obviously, this is a bad start. I think he's still got great things ahead of him, and the Eagles' pass game is going to be just fine. People are still worried about Jalen Hurts. Look, Jalen, 18 of 32, right? That's got to be the worst part of all of this. Only a 64.3 QBR and 80.6 rating. Decent, but not great. No touchdowns either as far as passing game. 243 yards, though, and this is what's important. You just need a quarterback not to make mistakes, and especially in a game like this, where you get ahead by 10 points at halftime, it's starting to look comfortable, you're pretty much in control. One mistake, when the defense was already letting them back in, which we'll get into, one mistake by Jalen Hurts, giving up a fumble, throwing an interception, making a bad pass like that, and this is a different story. It's a completely different story. It's a tragic story about how the Detroit Lions came back and beat the Philadelphia Eagles in the second half. I am a fan of a quarterback getting the job done. And that's what Jalen Hurts did. He got the job done. It wasn't glamorous, okay? It wasn't 5 touchdowns like Patrick Mahomes. He didn't have 400, 500 yards passing. That's okay. You don't need that, all right? You throw in the 90 yards rushing with the 243 passing, he's over 300 yards. Yes, I'd like to see some more touchdowns sprinkled in there. They will come. I'm not worried about that. And really the biggest reason why he didn't have any passing touchdowns is because the running game worked in the red zone. 4 rushing touchdowns. It wasn't like they were lacking touchdowns, you know what I mean? They scored 38 points. They scored 4 offensive touchdowns. They just happened to all be rushing touchdowns, and that's great. Because if the rushing game is working in the red zone, you're going to set up play action. And when you set up play action, your receiver's going to get over because the defense is going to bite because we're so good at running the ball in the red zone. Obviously, this is just week 1, but it has been a strength for the Eagles going into last season. So, yeah, I'm a fan of that. And yes, I'd like to see more touchdowns on the board, but I'm very happy with 0 interceptions. Really nothing to complain about with Jalen Hurts overall. I think he made some good passes in this game. I think he played smart. Used his legs really wisely. Really nothing to complain about. Yeah, it wasn't a superstar performance. I can totally agree with that, but it didn't hurt the team at all. And I think he did a great job of pushing the Eagles past the lines in this game when it mattered most. And speaking of that, the player that I think did the absolute best with just an incredible run on, I believe it was 4th down, was Miles Sanders. Getting that tough 2 yards, breaking a tackle, and getting into the outside to pretty much secure the victory. That was the play of the game. And Miles had a great game. For only 13 carries, he averaged 7.4 yards per carry. This is what Miles Sanders has done his whole career. Just utilizing the chances that he gets, which are so few for some reason. But 13 carries, 96 yards, and a touchdown for Miles today. That's the best game for Miles Sanders in so long, it feels like. Especially when, he was injured for a long time. It's just good to have that. And Miles Sanders, as we already know, as we saw last year, he's not going to be an every down back. He's not Derrick Henry. He's not Jonathan Taylor. He's not Christian McCaffrey. Miles Sanders is going to be in a committee. We know Gainwell's going to get, 5, 6, 8, 10 carries a game. Boston's going to get 5 carries a game. And Jalen Hurts is probably going to get more carries than anybody because he's going to run when he feels like it and designed runs as well. So it's a really tough situation for Miles Sanders, and it's just so great that he utilizes the little carries that he gets. Whenever he touches the ball, he does good things more times than not. And, 7.4 yards per carry, that's efficiency. That is beyond efficiency. That's amazing. Obviously, the biggest carry of the game, in my opinion, breaking that tackle and securing the victory in the 4th quarter. It was a great game for Miles Sanders. So, we've touched on the offense. The offense did great. We all know that. The defense. I'll tell you, man, the defense was looking great other than the rush defense. And that was surprising because in that first drive, DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams had their way. They did whatever they wanted to do. And they drove them right down the field on some nice runs, a huge run by DeAndre Swift. And they scored a touchdown. It was all the run game. And it was puzzling to me because you have Jordan Davis now. We've got this new linebacking core. We're supposed to be one of the best run-stopping teams in football. And they just treated us like dirt. They just ran all over us. And then it got better. They started slowing them down a little bit. I mean, we look at the final stat line. DeAndre Swift had 144 yards and a touchdown. Jamal Williams had 2 touchdowns. This is Detroit's offense. They run the ball very well, and they did that, surely. I mean, I know DeAndre Swift, he had like a 60-yard run, so a big chunk of that came in one play. But, for 15 carries, 144 yards, 9.6 yards a carry, pretty good. That was pretty good for DeAndre Swift. And that's something they got to work on, obviously, because that started to open up in the second half, too. The floodgates opened in the second half for the Detroit Lions, and it was very clear Philadelphia was struggling to keep up. And what was even more disappointing, in my opinion, was Jared Goff finished this game with 215 yards and 2 touchdowns. He obviously threw a pick 6. 215 yards, though, at like 5 minutes left in the second quarter, he had 19 yards passing. 19 yards passing, that was it. And so he got all of it in the second half. And it makes me wonder, what happened? What happened? I mean, they were doing so well at stopping the pass. If they stopped the run early and made it 3rd and long, I mean, Jared Goff couldn't complete a pass. And they'd go off the field, and that's how the Eagles got all these points. And then it disappeared in the second half. And I don't know if it was Jonathan Gannon deciding that he's ready to let off the gas. Let's just play safe. Let's not give up the big plays. Or maybe they were doing something that the Lions figured out at halftime and just kept utilizing it against the Eagles, and the Eagles never recovered from that. What I do know is Jared Goff started to have all day to throw the ball, and that's unacceptable. He had all day to get rid of the ball, and when you do that, I mean, Jared Goff is an efficient quarterback, man. I mean, he's not great, obviously, but he's middle tier, upper middle tier maybe. If you give him all day to throw the ball, he's going to find somebody, and he absolutely did. He looked great in the second half. If they played like that in the first half, we would have lost this game. And yeah, you've got to get in on the pass rush. I mean, nobody did a great job, I would say. Marcus Epps, maybe 8 tackles, 10 total tackles, 8 solo tackles. Marcus Epps was flying to the ball. He did get cooked a little bit on that DeAndre Swift run, but, props to Marcus Epps. That man plays hard, I got to say. But everybody else, man, I mean, TJ Edwards was second with 5 or 7. They had 57 total tackles. The Eagles were last in the league in tackling. And that's a problem, obviously, because you need to bring guys down. And especially when it's the quarterback. And, when you have Josh Sweat, when you have Fletcher Cox, when you got, Milton Williams in there, Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett, obviously he got hurt, but Javon Hargreaves, get in there, and they're not. And that's definitely one of the biggest disappointing things in this game is nobody was getting to the quarterback. And that has to get addressed. That has to get fixed because clearly giving up 35 points to the Lions, although, as I said, the Lions are a better team than people give them credit for, 35 points to the Lions, there are going to be people that are going to score a lot more than that if that's how we're going to play defense. We can't win an offensive shootout every single time. 38 points should win you a football game. It did here, but giving up 35, that's a good way to lose football games as well. A positive note, though, the Eagles, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago, but had they had won games decided by 7 points or less, they would have been first in the NFC. And they weren't. I think it was last year, and they only ended up winning 9 games. But if they had won the games that were decided by 7 points or less, they would have been first in the NFC. So it's encouraging that this was a game decided by 7 points or less, and we were on the positive side of it. it would have sucked to lose to the Lions week 1. Obviously, that's a team that we should beat, and we did beat. Was it pretty? No. Hard to say that was a pretty win. The offense looked great. The defense looked mediocre, I would say, overall. High spots, obviously, the pick 6. James Bradbury looked great. A.J. Brown, 155 yards, just absolutely incredible. I like Jalen Hurts' play. And then Miles Sanders as well. I think, did a great job running the ball and had the big play in the fourth quarter. Things I didn't like, as I've already kind of went through, Devontae Smith, it's disappointing. Let's get him involved going into next week. I think they will. The defense, just get to the quarterback, man. Just get to the quarterback. That's going to open up so many opportunities for turnovers, for sacks, fumbles, you name it. But if you get the quarterback, this is the biggest thing, obviously. That's why I'm touching on it so much. If you give the quarterback that much time, and especially somebody better than Jared Goff, for example, Kirk Cousins, they're going to just rip the defense to shreds. It doesn't matter how good or bad your secondary is. If they have 6 seconds to throw the ball, 7 seconds to throw the ball, somebody's going to get open. An NFL receiver is going to get open. That's just how it is. So I blame the secondary less than I do the pass rush, but still, the defense as a whole needs to take it another level. But there's guys that are new on the team. There's rookies out there, so it could just be, a little bit of shaking off the rust, a little bit of figuring out how to do it. So I'm not too concerned, man. We got to win, all right? Let's see what happens against Minnesota before I'm hitting the panic button, because that could be a completely different game. And it is going to be a completely different game because Minnesota is, in my opinion, the best team in the NFC North this year. And they got a surprise win in a lot of people's cases, or in a lot of people's opinions, against Green Bay. So we get to play Minnesota. And, you look at these numbers, there's obviously 2 people that you need to look at. Dalvin Cook is carrying the ball 20 times a game, 90 yards, which honestly is, if we could hold him to that, that's pretty good. That's what you want. Obviously, the big problem here, Justin Jefferson. 9 catches, 184 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He has to be contained. Absolutely has to be contained. And, we have one of the best cornerbacks in the league. So hopefully Darius Slay locks him up. That's going to be a fun matchup all day long, Monday night. But, the defense on Minnesota, I think, is also a little bit better than Detroit as well. So it's going to be interesting. It's definitely a bigger challenge. I don't think we're going to put up quite as many points, and I'm hoping the defense is going to figure something out and not let Minnesota put up quite as many points as Detroit did. This is a game that could go either way. I obviously want to say the Eagles win, but they've got their work cut out for them for sure. This is a game that they could drop. I think it's really going to depend on how's the defense going to get to Kirk Cousins and how is the secondary going to handle Justin Jefferson. And then if they are, how does Adam Thielen fare in? Let's not forget. Adam Thielen was one of the best wide receivers in the league just 3-4 years ago. Obviously, Justin Jefferson has taken, the space with those numbers. 184 and 2 touchdowns is insane. But I think our secondary is a little bit better than Green Bay's, and I think they can handle Justin Jefferson. They have to handle Justin Jefferson, because if they let him have that kind of a game, it's going to be a long, long night for Philadelphia. I think if they can hold Justin Jefferson to around 100 yards, that's good. That's good. That's something we can handle. And the offense just needs to keep the gas on, man. Just keep doing exactly what we did against Detroit. Carry that right over to Minnesota. Yeah, man. That's pretty much all I got. Pretty much summed up the game here. Got us all caught up as far as the offseason. We got a lot of new stuff going on with the Philly Special. I'm so excited to be doing this every week. Probably Wednesdays I'll be shooting, so hopefully Thursdays they be coming out before the Thursday night game, sometime in the morning, early afternoon. Look out for it, dude. We've got the Philly Special PC on Twitter, the Philly Special Podcast on YouTube, Facebook is the Philly Special Podcast, all over social media, man. So give us a follow, check me out. It's just me. I don't know why I keep saying us, but yeah. I'm excited to be back, excited to be doing this again, and watching Philadelphia Eagles football, dude. This is going to be a fun fight Monday night against the Minnesota Vikings, and I will have the wrap-up and the predictions for you again next Thursday. So, Philly Special Episode 1 is in the books. Have a good night, enjoy your week, and happy football both Sunday and Monday. Fly, Eagles, fly. Go, Birds. We'll get at you next time.